Welcome. I am Sister Who. Thank you for watching today. I wanted to spend some time thinking today more about the question word who. It's my name, but it's also one of the questions in the introduction to this show, which is a show that deals with questions pertaining to life and spirituality. Who? My full name is Sister Who Does She Think She Is? Which is both audacity and a serious question. Because who we think we are has so much to do with how we present ourselves to the world. And what we believe ourselves to be capable. And of course, throughout life, it continues to change and evolve also. Who I think I am today is not who I thought I was 30 years ago. And it's ongoing, but there's always something new and wonderful to discover, or hopefully wonderful. I guess the qualities in and of themselves are neither good nor bad. It's up to us to make them good or bad, to make them wonderful, to utilize everything that is who and what I am in the most positive way possible. Which is where I wind up creating Sister Who, because it's an integration of my theatrical background, my spirituality, and my lifelong fascination, I suppose, for asking, yes, but what does it mean? And depending on what it means, how should I live? Which is really the fundamental question of all philosophy and religion. How should we then live? That's what it comes down to. In answering the question who, though, the first knee-jerk response in a lot of situations is simply to offer our name, what my legal name is. But if I change my legal name, does that mean I am a different person? Well, of course not, because that's part of the process of doing a legal change of name, is to verify that you are the same person. You are simply taking a different public designation. But the essence of who you are remains. And names often don't tell a lot about who the person is. There's a lot of people, I'm sure it's well known, who are named John Smith. That's a very common name in America. Doesn't mean that it's a name to be trivialized or devalued. It just means that there's a lot of people who use that public designation. So if we want to communicate to someone else if John Smith wanted to communicate to someone else who that particular John Smith really is, he would have to go beyond the name and begin to talk about what it was that measured him as a person, what it was that made him unique and distinct from other John Smiths. Another way that this question of who is answered, however, is also the association with persons that frequently comes in society. That if you're a member of such and such club, or a member of a race, or a member of a church, and if you're, for example, you go to a church convention, and someone comes up to you and says, "Who are you?" And you say, "I'm the secretary of such and such church." Well, does that really tell them who you are, or what you do, or what your administrative position is? So that the measure for who, in that point, in that instance, becomes your association with the church and being employed by the church. Another way of answering this question of who is how the association can be assigned to you by others. I remember a young lady I spoke with once who came from a poorer part of, I think it was Virginia, and went to a restaurant that prided itself on serving upscale customers. And they refused to serve her because they considered her a hillbilly. It's an association with a lifestyle, an economic class, a region that was assigned to her by the managers of a particular restaurant. It didn't really have anything to do with who she really was. It had to do with how they categorized her. It was an imposed external sense of who, that, of course, I would object to rather strongly, because it's not about who she was, and I don't believe anyone's really better or worse than anyone else. Hillbilly or millionaire, a person is a person is a person. In terms of, going back to our earlier example of being the secretary of a church, if one was not the secretary but was a member of a church, if you went to a church convention and somebody said, I'm a member of a Baptist church, I'm a member of a Catholic church, I'm a member of a Lutheran church, I'm a member of an independent gospel church. These are societal societal categorizations that supposedly tell the speaker something about what to expect from you. Only to the extent, however, that that person's perception of that category is accurate. There are a lot of people I've met who are not Catholics who think they know what Catholics are like. And there are a lot of people I've met who are not Baptists but think they know what Baptists are like. Maybe they do and maybe they don't. The thing I've found with all the different people I've met from all the different churches and religions is that there is no group in which there is not some degree of disagreement. If you ask someone in a Catholic church, for example, whether they believe everything that the Pope tells them to believe, most of the Catholics I've met, the ones I grew up with, would immediately say, well, the Pope is the Pope. Do you believe everything your church believes? Well, no, not exactly, but enough. Enough to satisfy whom? Well, who's asking? It's enough to satisfy their decision of whether to attend a different church or whether to continue attending that church, or whether to be a member who is non-practicing, that is, officially a member of the church, sending in a donation once a year for a tax deduction, but not actually attending any of the services. It's an association with beliefs that you assign to yourself at that point. You choose to associate with a church that has a publicly stated collection of beliefs, even though you don't necessarily hold all of those beliefs. By choosing to be a member, you now have an answer to the question who, an identity that is what it is by association. In a similar sort of way, as I was just describing, the association can be assigned by others. Those who think they know what all Catholics are like, or all Baptists are like, or all Lutherans, or all whomever, all Muslims, all Jews. What are they all like? Well, everyone I've met, they're not all like anything. They're a diverse bunch of people. In every single case, there are similarities and differences between everybody, between all the different people in their membership. And I haven't found a single congregation in which everybody in the congregation believes everything that the church administration says they should, and behaves in the same way, and dresses the same way, and is the same. They're all different. They all have different opinions. They argue over different points of theology. They argue over dress codes. Also, they argue over whether the church should be involved in this or that public activity, whether they should have a booth at a particular fair coming up, or whether there should be an information kiosk at the local mall where they can hand out brochures about their particular church, whether they should go door to door passing out flyers about their church, inviting people to come on to their Sunday services. All sorts of disagreements, all sorts of differences, none of which are really good or bad, they're just differences. But there are things that are put forward to answer the question of who are you? I'm a Lutheran. Okay, that tells me this, supposedly. Well, maybe, maybe not, because there's a lot of Lutherans who don't agree on everything. There's a lot of Catholics, there's a lot of pagans, a lot of New Agers, a lot of everybody who don't agree on everything. There's a lot more diversity. And so when we ask the question who, if you want an accurate answer, you almost have to ask, who is this individual in front of me? And then understand that the individual standing before me is a multifaceted person with capabilities and possibilities and history that I can't even begin to imagine. And that everything they can tell me in the next 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, depending on how long I have to listen and how long they have to talk, is only that much of who they are, because there's even more. If there's a compelling reason to get to know them more fully, obviously you can pursue that. If you don't have that reason and you choose not to get to know them more fully, what it does mean is withholding judgment and not being negative toward them on the basis of this tiny little piece of them that you saw, but letting them be someone who is, to you, mostly mystery. But when I'm checking out at the department store, all I need to know about the cashier is that she knows how to make change, she or he, that they're doing their job, that they're not breaking my merchandise as they're putting it into the bags for me to take home. It's a collaboration, a very limited duration, very limited focus. I don't have to know all of that. So in that sense, it's easier to simply check out, pay for my items, and go. Because I'm aware that I don't know all of that, however, I don't judge them while I'm waiting for them to finish taking care of my order. I don't look at them and say, well, their skin is a different color, so clearly that means they're not as intelligent. Or their hair is a different length, and so that means that they've been to college, or whatever. Those sorts of interpretations would be pure guesses and speculation, and would not necessarily be helpful to collaboration with this person. It's about going through life, meeting people, and letting a person be a person be a person, and not judging, because you and I don't have enough information to make those sorts of judgments. We don't know how intelligent they are or are not. We don't know what their ethnic background is. We don't know what their religious preference is. And because of that, we allow our interaction to be what it is without adding any positive or negative valuation of the person because of agreement or disagreement we think might be there. There are too many times where somebody has been in a situation, and because they think the other person is just like them in some way, they are more kind, more optimistic, more trusting, more friendly than they would be with someone who was significantly different. When in fact, the person who appears to be more like them may turn out to be the less trustworthy of the two. You know, as they say, hindsight is 20/20. Retrospect, looking back on something. After you've already passed it, you look back and you can see what it was. When we're in the moment, we don't know which it is. And we don't have to be suspicious and cynical, but we do have to recognize how complex the question who is, that there's a lot of pieces to it, and assumptions are not advised. That there's good reasons, because of what we don't know, not to be judgmental. Another way that the question word who can play out is the challenge of, well, as the poster I saw a number of years ago says, when I do something right, no one notices. When I do something wrong, no one ever forgets. To be known by good or bad qualities, according to what people remember. It may have been 20 years ago, but if somebody made a particular mistake, there may be someone who will still hold it against them, who's never forgiven them and never forgotten the mistake that they made. So the answer to the question word who can be some mistake, some fault, some shortcoming. Who are you? Oh, you're the one who broke the expensive vase. You're the one who tripped on the sidewalk when we were moving and dropped the mirror. You're the one who was nasty to my dog because he was barking too much at your cat. All sorts of different things. Rather than considering that maybe for whatever unpleasantness may have passed between us, there may be some positive qualities, some things to value that make it very worthwhile getting to know this person much deeper, that recommend creating a friendship instead of allowing an adversarial ignorance to remain between the two of you. When I was in graduate school getting a master's degree in theological studies, one of my complaints in virtually all of my classes there was that the people, the discussions, both the students and professors there, I continued to find had a problem seeing beyond the categories. They would look out at the class and decide, well, this person's white, this person's black, this person's Asian. If the color of white is the color of a sheet of paper, I'm not particularly white. I suppose I might be a peach or a tan color. I don't really know. But as they were describing the category of white people, I didn't find much in common with what they were describing. It didn't reflect my upbringing, didn't reflect where I grew up, didn't reflect how I related to people. That was the category. My complaint to them frequently was that they were not able to see the individuals, to see that no one in the room was the embodiment of a category. And that's the way prejudices generally get started. One example of a particular race, group, creed, whatever, does something that somebody else doesn't like, and they look at that person and say, oh, you're Catholic, white, Protestant, Asian, whatever. That means everyone else is just like you. To which the individual would probably respond, right. I don't know that there's anything you can get all the white people to agree on. It doesn't answer who I am if somebody labels me white. From that point on, whenever people would have me fill out forms and it'd say, okay, so what is your race? I would check other and put American Euromutt, because I'm a mixture of 3 or 4 different ethnicities from Europe. I don't know which ones of them. I mean, the white essentially was applied to, the other word for it is Caucasian, but Caucasian really only refers to people from the Caucasus Mountains. Didn't include any of my ancestors. Is there such a thing as group guilt? That's a whole nother discussion for another time, much too involved to get into here. In the same way, though, if I had been black, if I had been Native American, if I had been Asian, for someone to look at me and decide who I was based on a racial category that they superimposed on me would basically silence my voice and deny me any ability to say that I was different from their understanding of that category. And so there was no dialogue, and it was very frustrating to me that the school continually could not see beyond its categories, could not recognize individuals, could not recognize that 2 individuals within the same racial grouping could have a major disagreement and have major differences, and the only thing they may have in common was the pigmentation of their skin. Because of that, one could not accurately or legitimately, on the basis of that characteristic, say who they were. We simply didn't know. It was a projection. It was somebody else's definition of who that had nothing to do with the objective truth of the person. All the different ways we can answer the question, word who. And a lot of these we trip over as we're trying to create a better and better world. That, in my mind, in my understanding, if we are ever to create that more ideal world, it's going to have something to do with allowing everyone to be an individual, instead of projecting onto them our suppositions about what their category into which we have placed them is like. We can simply ask them to self-define, ask them to say, so what do you believe? And how do you live? And what is important to you? And what are your values? And rather than measuring somebody by their failures, what if we measured them by their accomplishments? Which could be good or bad. If if a famous sports hero is accused of a crime, but we recognize this person because of his accomplishments, it could make us blind to his failure, because any person can have both accomplishments and failures, with times where we are exemplary and a model citizen, and times where we demonstrate reprehensible behavior. If we answer the question word who in terms of the accomplishment, it could serve to make us blind to addressing whatever wrongs may be committed at a later date. If we're going to be a healthy, functional society, we need to be sure that we're not running from truth and hiding behind past accomplishments, but that we're dealing with problems as they arise and dealing with behavior as it arises, rewarding good behavior, punishing negative behavior in a balanced, just, intelligent way, and not assuming that anyone could not be even in both categories at the same time. You know, the person who has just committed some horrible crime could in the next moment be the one who demonstrates compassion to a child in a burning building. Anything's possible, especially with human beings. Another way yet to answer the question of who is in terms of aptitude. What is one good at doing? If one, for example, someone is having a wedding, and all they know about Jane is that she's really good at arranging flowers. And so, to them, her answer to the question word who is the person who did the flowers for my wedding. That's all they know. That leaves multiple dimensions of who Jane really is, totally shrouded in secrecy. No one really knows who she is beyond the fact that she was the one who arranged the flowers at the wedding. If we conducted our relationships and our insights according to this deeper knowledge that we don't know much about the other person, we have a moment of shared interaction, but I have no business judging the other person because I simply don't know the other person. I don't know what her values are, what's important to her, what she's hoping for, what she's wishing for, whether she aspires to become a greater person than she is, or whether she has given up on life from too many rejections, after being rejected too many times. All of which is to say, if someone regularly engages in meditation, personal growth can be realized even by meditating on something as simple as the question word who. As we look in the mirror even, looking into, which some people may find this really strange if you've never done it, if you look into a mirror and you stare into your own eyes, not that you're trying to have a stare down with yourself necessarily, but you're staring into your own eyes, kind of like that old adage that the eyes are the windows of the soul. If you look into your own eyes in the bathroom mirror, who do you see through those windows? Many people haven't given it a second thought. If you can begin to see who that person is, hurt areas that need to be healed, and begin to address that, you find yourself empowered. Who that person is, areas of accomplishment, things that create joy and happiness and pride. Not pride in the sense of arrogance, but pride in the sense of confidence, of accomplishment, of I worked hard, I did it, and I get to sign my name to it. I can legitimately be proud of this. Perhaps an act of service to your community. Perhaps things that society tells, of which society tells you should be ashamed. Things like being gay. At one time, it was not considered appropriate to be proud of being gay. When people decided to step forward and say, I'm proud of being gay, though, it's not that they were saying I'm better than everyone else. It's that they were saying, I refuse to remain ashamed of simply being who and what I am. And unfortunately, we still live within a transitional time where I suppose you could say the argument isn't over. The dialogue is ongoing. We're not to the point where being gay is such a non-issue everywhere that we don't have to talk about it anymore, because it's still an issue, because people are still being attacked and hurt and marginalized for being gay or for being lesbian or for being disabled or for being elderly or any of a number of other things. These associations with a social category that governments sometimes, but that others have put upon us, and finding a way to move instead toward love and wisdom, so that who we are can be all of our best qualities, all of our most shining aptitudes, all of our best contribution, so that we get to be who we are, step forward and say, this is who I am. And we need to have neither apology nor attitude, neither chip on our shoulder, like I dare you to say something bad about it, nor an apology, like I'm kind of afraid to tell you who I am because you might not like who I am, but simply to say, this is who I am. You are welcome to become my friend or move away from me as you wish, but this is who I am. I choose to be honest with you. I choose to trust you with the truth of me. And that is a pretty high compliment to pay someone, to actually look at them and say, I trust you to respect and to value. I trust you with the truth of me, who I really am. I trust you enough to tell you. If someone hasn't trusted you with something, if they feel like they need to hide it, perhaps they need more love and more expression from you, that it is okay for them to be who they are, so that they, in turn, can grant you the freedom to be who you are. And in that who we are always has the freedom to disagree peacefully and civilly. You can be you and I can be me. I thank you for watching this show, and I hope that I've been able to stir your thoughts up somewhat during the last half hour, so that you can be who you are with integrity, that you can disagree agreeably, peacefully, civilly, that you have the freedom of your own mind and the passion of your own heart, and that you're able to be part of your community in the best possible way, and ensuring that you keep those abilities by granting the same abilities to others. Thank you for watching.